Episode 11 is brought to you by the following Big Dog Tier members: Ethan Young, April Hawkins, Dawn Jackson, Juanita Bowers, and Zoe Fries. Are you looking to be more involved in the Dog Pound community? If so, please visit patreon.com/dogwithabone. For just $1 a month, you can help support Dog with a Bone's mission. Please visit our page to learn about the multiple tiers that will give you access to behind-the-scenes content, outtakes, documents, photos, videos, and live monthly events with me. I thank you for your continued support and consideration. Warning, this episode contains adult content and listener discretion is advised. All views and opinions expressed by Dog with a Bone guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the contributors. Everyone, and welcome back to Dog with a Bone. If you have not already, please join our Dog with a Bone discussion Facebook page where you can meet other listeners and discuss the episodes as we move through the season. There will be a ton to talk about. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Dog with a Bone on Spotify or wherever you listen so you get notified when episodes are released. In this second half of Season 2, I will be digging into the investigation that took place once Fayette County Sheriff's Office arrived on scene. We know that Dr. Gay arrived around 4:30 a.m. Marianne and Kenny were allowed to leave the scene and go to Kenny's parents' house to shower and change. When Donald and I first connected about a year ago to discuss Mackenzie's case, he provided a lot of the details of the investigation that were throwing red flags left and right.
I was looking at the lie detector test results, and you know what? I didn't catch on to it until after. But Kenny's lie detector test, everybody was told to go take a lie detector test by Detective Brown. But Kenny's that was taken the day of the fire. That's where I keep going after the sheriff about. How you going to sit there and tell me my kid was ruled an accident? That's how you sent her, because it's in your paperwork. I have the paperwork where you sent her as an accident. But Kenny went that day to take a lie detector test, the day of the fire. So for him to go take a lie detector test, something was suspicious.
But I wonder why they did him and not her right away.
See, I don't know neither. That's the other part I didn't understand. And that was even when they questioned John Heyer, the cop. He said that he interviewed Kenny the day of the fire, but did not Marianne because he was told that she was too distraught, whatever you call it.
Distraught, yeah.
Yeah, and as well I was told, which I laughed. They don't interview people when it's someone close to them. They don't interview them at that time. They give them 3 days. It was called a pyramid something. And what they do is they allow you to go home for 3 days before they question you.
That's not true.
You know what the detective told me? I got it. I have it literally on tape. I even asked her, I said, so you're telling me I can go down the road, kill this son of a bitch down the road, and y'all gonna let me go home for 3 days before you arrest me?
When reviewing the statements from the scene, Kenny provided a statement to John Heyer, and this is what it says, quote, "Involved party number 1, who is Kenny, stated he awoke to his house on fire. He alerted the victim, whose bedroom was on the second floor at the rear of the residence, and involved party number 2, Marianne, who was sleeping with him. He then broke out a window for the two of them to escape." Does anyone remember Marianne saying that she broke out a window, or that Kenny broke out a window and she went with him? Yeah, no, they changed their story. He then says he obtained a ladder, which we know is false, and attempted to reach the victim via her bedroom window. However, the victim did not respond to his calls, and he was driven back by heavy smoke and flame. I want to mention that at the end of the report, it makes a note of who was on scene. According to John Heyer, there was Stanforth, Crabtree, Summers, and the one and only Sergeant Stiegel. The report was written around 5:22 a.m., and I did not see Mary Ann's statements from the scene, so I was curious why the sheriff's office did not bring both Mary Ann and Kenny straight to the station for a more formal interview. We see it happen all the time. This is really the optimal period where you are going to get the most accurate statements. Most victims of a crime want to talk right away so that they can help figure out what happened. And it would be more prudent, actually, for the investigators to want to talk with witnesses immediately after an incident, as there are many factors that influence a witness's memory the more time that passes. I've actually heard officers say something along the lines of, "We know that this is a very difficult situation for you, but we do need you to come down and give statements at the station." It was during my sit-down with Vernon that we talked about the different ways that Mary Ann and Donald reacted to their daughter's murder.
I think his frustration is he gets a hammer and goes out and builds something. Some people just grab one more can of beer and drink themselves to death, but Donald just works his way into decent work. Good work. He's a good carpenter. He would make a fortune if he didn't have such a temper and had a nice personality.
I think this just wrecked his whole life.
Well, it was even that way before, but this exaggerated it. This compounded it. I don't care what kind of person you are. You lose a daughter, it's got to be traumatic.
I can't even imagine.
Well, that's why I said when we first started, Mary Ann handled this different. She mourned her daughter, but totally different than Donald. She was totally different.
I want to share now an interview that I did with Kelly, who was the hotel manager where Kenny and Mary Ann were given a room arranged by the sheriff's office.
I was a general manager of AmeriHost at the time. Back then, we worked with the sheriff's department. If someone was in a car accident or a house fire, we had so many rooms set aside for what we called the sheriff rooms. So we had some of those set aside. I get a call. I was asleep. I don't know what time it was, but my third shift auditor would call me and say, "This is the situation. Can you approve me to do a sheriff room, override a code?" And she said there was a house fire. And I said, "Oh, absolutely." So the minimum was 3 days or something like that. I only could donate for 3 days per the management company. So I said, absolutely. Well, then I get woke up again, maybe an hour or two later, and said, the family's requesting 2 rooms. And I thought, well, that's strange. But I was asleep in a house fire, and she was whispering to me a child had died. So I said, absolutely, go ahead. I ended up donating 2 rooms that night. I get up in the morning, and I approximately got at work about 8 o'clock in the morning. When I walk in, my first shift desk girl has just got this look on her face. And I was like, what? And she said, I don't think I want to be here today. She follows me to my office and she says, I haven't opened the pool yet. And I said, why? And she said, because there's beer bottles everywhere. I said, why is there beer bottles? At this point, I'm mad because I'm thinking my second shift didn't clean the pool before she locked it. And she's acting funny. And I'm like, what is wrong? And she's like, she was a young girl. And she said the night auditor told her that it was early morning hours before the pool opened. And now the pool opens at 6 a.m. So this is going to be 4 to 6. She told the front desk girl that the boyfriend of the incident comes to the front desk and says, To soothe the mother, can we get in the pool or the hot tub? It was supposed to be the hot tub for her to, just soothe herself. And so the night auditor said, she was shocked, but because of the situation, everybody was just, nothing like that happens, None of these people had dealt with something like a child passing away. So everybody was just in shock and awe. And so she's like, yeah, I will, but you got to be quiet because customers have balconies. So they were like, oh, yeah. So she said she goes back to doing, she had to set up breakfast and all that. Next thing she knows, there's actually 4 people in there, 2 guys, 2 girls, mom, boyfriend, and I don't know the names of the other people. They were the best friends. And she said, when I'm setting up breakfast and I walk past the pool windows, they're actually in the pool. And the women are on the men's shoulders. And they had been drinking and they're laughing and playing chicken in the pool, like trying to knock the women off the shoulders.
This is how many hours? Is this in the early morning?
This is immediately after.
So they leave the crime scene, then they go shower, and they come to the hotel and they're partying?
Yes, ma'am. There's beer. Somebody smoked. I don't know if they all smoked, but you had to go outside to a patio area from the pool to smoke. And they would go out there and smoke and come in. And they were horse playing is what the girls kept saying, because they were just shocked. So I start paying attention. They're in their rooms by the time I get there. Housekeepers come, they hit the floor, everybody goes to work. Now we're at, I'm going to say, noon is their first smoke break. Well, my front desk girl smokes. She goes out to smoke with them. They're out there for a while. I look up at the mirror and I'm like, what are they doing? Because you could just see they're all like just talking and gossiping. All them girls are out there talking about they don't want their room cleaned, but they can hear them talking, smell like they're spraying, like the women are getting ready. They're showering. So here they come, as these girls are telling me, here they come, they're coming down to the pool. So I'm watching them as they're in the pool. Now families there, or friends, I don't know. There are people showing up, going to these rooms, talking to these people, going into the pool. But now lunch comes, maybe 2:00. We're back out there. They're still in the pool. So they're telling me the story. And I was just instantly, I had a feeling as a mother. Now I'm a mom of 2 boys at the time. I just got this, as a mom, you get a feeling like, what the hell's wrong with you, lady? So I don't know her. Didn't want to judge her, but I'm like, bitch, what is wrong with you? Literally, I was angry as a mom. Seeing this all, for 4 or 5 hours. And there is this lady that is with them, with her. She is skinny, older. She probably was in her late 50s at the time. But she heard us. This is why it stuck with me. She heard these housekeepers and us gossiping out front. She happened to be out back smoking. She come through the bushes because there's stepping stones to come around, but they're through the bushes. She comes around and grabs me by the arm, grabs me, scares shit out of me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. And she said, did you see something wrong with that effing picture? And she's pointing to the window. And I freeze. We all freeze. Nobody knows what to say because we think we're about to get our ass kicked. You know what I mean? So she says, if that was my daughter that died last night, I couldn't effing function. And nobody could say a word, but I started crying because I was young too. I was in my 30s. And she said, I want to rip every hair out of her effing head. I'm effing leaving. I can't stay no more. She walks away. That's when I realized, oh, she ain't mad at us. She thinks the same thing. And she goes into the pool, and because they're holding it open in the back door with a rock. She says something to the mother and leaves. Immediately leaves. I don't know if she stayed in the other room. This woman, she knows the mom did it too by those actions that we saw. And she is the mother's family member. And then she apologized to. She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. This has nothing to do with you."
I followed up with Donald and asked him who he thought this older woman could be, and he believes that this woman was Mary Ann's aunt. I circled back with Kelly just to get a better understanding again of the timeline of when that pool was asked to be open.
The pool opened up regularly at 6 a.m. and they asked for early access. So it was after 3 a.m. She said she had already ran her audit.
So between 3 and 6 on Friday morning, so of the fire, you get a call at what time about letting them come?
The first call was probably between 2 and 3.
Then you get another call about another room?
Yes. I'm assuming it's once they had arrived because I was asleep. I'm not sure of the exact time frame, but I was still asleep, and I don't go to work till between 8 and 9.
So maybe between 3 and 4?
About an hour. I'm going to say probably the time they arrived is my thinking. Then they arrived, they asked for 2 rooms. So who calls the hotel is either a sheriff or Joy also would call at times and say this is going like abused woman and children as well.
Okay.
Would take.
So what we really know is on Friday, only less than 4 hours, or even 3 hours, after Mackenzie's murder and this house fire, they want access to a pool.
Yes.
So, which in and of itself is very odd.
Odd.
They want access to a pool. They go in and they're partying, basically, is what you're telling me.
There was beer bottles all over the sides of the pool, the hot tub, and out where the smoking tables. Empty beer bottles. And my desk worker said it was them because it wasn't a very busy hotel.
He had asked for access, which is not normally given.
Never. And I remember everybody was saying, they even went to bed yet. So nobody went to sleep. Everything just room, swimming, and then they went to bed, and then people started showing up. Further, we tell them where they were. I don't even know if they went to bed.
So it wasn't like, and this is based on your own eyes, it wasn't,
yes.
What you saw was not a grieving mother.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Well, I find it interesting, right, when we look at this lack of investigation. Why are they not at the police station? Why are they not being questioned? Why are we not following these things? Why wouldn't you be in your room devastated and that someone tried to kill you or that your daughter was just set on fire? But you're playing chicken in a pool?
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder why Vernon is saying to me, oh, she grieves in her own way. She was absolutely fine. It sounds like she could have went in and been interviewed.
Absolutely fine. When people started showing up, we felt like we had more of a family reunion at the hotel than a morning. Because, I was ready to go in and say, listen, we got a family here. Give out rules. I couldn't even do that. I was just like, I had nothing to say to my staff because I felt the same way.
And it's very apparent. When you look at patterns of behavior and you look at what is going on, Kenny and Mary Ann, again, based on your own eyes and what you saw, not me saying anything, they were, what would you say they were, how were they behaving?
If they wasn't just being like someone staying at a hotel, having a good night, drinking and cigarettes, this is what other customers would think. They're just someone staying here having a good time. enjoying themselves, staying maybe, overnight, going shopping. That's what it looked like. I walked the halls and I would see the mom and the boyfriend whispering, constantly whispering, to each other, and just suspicious. I don't know if my brain was going crazy, but I'm like, every time I come down this hallway, why are you guys by this public bathroom whispering away from everyone? They had a secret and they were hiding something from people, but yet go right back to enjoying their hotel stay.
We're talking 6 hours or less from her daughter dying.
Yes.
You look at, if you had 1 in 10 people who had the same experience, how would they act? None of them would act this way.
No, ma'am. I'd be in the hospital. I couldn't function, or I'd be burned, one or the other, or dead.
You wouldn't be playing chicken, Kelly? You wouldn't be playing chicken in the pool?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You would be at the police station. Mind you, her daughter has gone to the medical coroner, is being autopsied at this time. If we put this in perspective, when she's playing in the pool, Mackenzie is having an autopsy done on her body. Let's really think about that.
And see, until you brought all this out, I had no idea about timelines. I didn't know when the fire happened because, I was asleep. This happens all the time. I'd get woke up. Until you brought out all the timelines, and I'm going, holy moly. That was within hours, more, I knew it was hours, but I'm thinking maybe the fire happened at 9 or 10 at night. My brain was going everywhere, but you put the timeline out and I'm like, are you kidding me? It even made it worse. I'm like, are you absolutely kidding me?
After Kelly and I ended the call, I sat back and thought to myself, I had asked Vernon if Kenny and Marianne were known alcoholics. I was curious because here they are partying in a pool, playing chicken, and were out at the bar the night before. I asked Vernon, and he says he doesn't seem to know. Take a listen. Do you know if Marianne was an alcoholic?
I don't know that she's an alcoholic. I kind of suspected as much. I've never had any dealings with her. She worked at bars. I don't know if she still does or not, but that's always the job she had here, was bartending. And the speculation was that that's how she got the job, was because she was a customer, and ultimately they ended up hiring her. That was the speculation. To say I've dealt with a lot of alcoholics over the years, and, they're alcoholics. I can't say that about Marianne, but she very well maybe. And I don't know that he is an alcoholic. Drinks? Yeah. Does he drink enough to get drunk? I don't know. I've never heard of him getting drunk.
No DUIs or anything like that?
I don't recall that. Neither one of them.
What? How is this possible to not know or even recall? This is unreal to me. I asked Vernon about this trip that Marianne and Kenny took to Myrtle Beach just 2 to 3 days after Mackenzie was buried. And wouldn't he see this as a red flag?
That upset Donald. Now, the fact that she went on vacation and they had a family, either Myrtle Beach or one of those beaches right after the funeral, within a week or two. And Marianne came to us and said, hey, we've got thousands of dollars in this rental property, and today we call it Airbnb, that they've rented the house, they paid for this vacation. They're all going down there. They needed to get away. And their question was, do we go? And I said, I can't tell you that. We need to get away. We really do need to get away. But this has been paid for a year. We've got this paid for. We can't get our money back. And she went on vacation, and that just went down. That did not settle well with a lot of people.
Was Mackenzie supposed to go with her on that trip?
I don't know. I'm assuming so. I don't know if Harrison and Douglas would have gone. I doubt it. I don't know who went. It's been so long ago. I don't think it was just the two of them. I'm not so sure who it was, whether she took her sisters. They were close.
How could you as a mother? I mean, I would be in bed, not being able to move.
Yeah, I couldn't have done that. I said, my wife, we'll just lose that money because we're not going. We're not leaving. I can't. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I've got to try to entertain people.
Exactly, Vernon. Exactly what my point is. You're saying that you and your wife would lose that money and you weren't going to leave. This is the general response that most people would have. So why not question Marianne more on the events of that night? Their story changed multiple times. Why would Marianne not say something along the lines of, we don't know who the killer is, so we need to take precautions? He didn't say that. He didn't say that they were worried about someone coming back to finish what they had started. It was more about the money. My point was this trip that they had supposedly paid for and planned for a year, nobody seemed to know about. The kids weren't even going or even had any idea. This is another red flag to me, but here's even the bigger flag that Vernon and the sheriff's office didn't seem to care enough about to investigate. Why was the conversation not about a killer who tried to kill them and killed their daughter, but more about the money and not getting it back? There was no concern about needing to get her away for safety. There was no, hey, I'm concerned and want to take the kids with me until you all figure out who broke into our house and killed Mackenzie and attempted to murder us. Because they already knew there was no danger. The focus really was on what would people think of them, taking the money and going on vacation. Marianne had zero cares. She was not grieving. She's taking selfies in the hotel room. Listen, if my daughter died, I wouldn't be able to hold up a phone and smile for the camera, but there's Marianne posting photos of her taking a selfie in the hotel room. You also have her and Kenny at a restaurant, drinking, having a great time with these paper bags on their heads with ridiculous sayings on them. They really had no care in the world. This is another piece of circumstantial evidence that you show a jury. I then ask about the funeral because a funeral, typically certain things happen, they show up. You can read a lot by people's behaviors. So I asked Vernon if anything stood out to him.
They were more different at the funeral.
Really?
Where Donald is very demonstrative and Marianne is, I don't want you to see me cry. I don't want you to see my emotion. And she was emotional, but it was far different than how Donald demonstrated. And I think Donald stayed at the casket, and I understand they were in the midst of their divorce. And it was not a pleasant divorce by any stretch of imagination. And I'm not even sure how much, and I don't know how, but I know Donald stayed at the casket. I don't think Marianne did. She may have maybe walked up with somebody and then she backed out. I don't know. She stayed there. I think Donald stayed there.
Vernon tells me that Mackenzie's case is like the kiss of death, and everyone who has ever touched this case has died.
So yeah, this is the kiss of death with this case. Just like I say, it is a made-for-TV movie. Everybody that's been involved in it basically has died.
Well, look at you still standing.
Hey, it's worked on me all right, only I think about this case all the time.
What do you think it's going to take to solve this case?
We've offered up $20,000 cash reward. We've had 0 takers. 0.
The reward is actually $10,000. And what does that tell you?
That no one has fresh information. No one has ever come forward and said, here's what's happened, or we need to look here.
Would it be possible that nobody has come forward based on fear?
Fear of what, though?
I don't know. You told me Donald's a hothead.
He raised those 2 boys. Harrison turned out bad. Douglas turned out good. Mackenzie was an angel. At 8 years old, she was a nice girl, and she lived a rough life, but she was a real nice girl. Everybody I've talked to, Mackenzie was a true angel. But Donald's not. He would probably break your neck. No, he really wouldn't. He would tell you he was going to break your neck. Donald, he's a lot of talk, but he's not that. He was not a nice parent. She wasn't a good parent. I say wasn't a good parent. He has a lot of struggles with parenting skills. But that's a judgment call. That's what I do for a living. But I don't make that final decision.
Vernon is 100% making judgment calls, again, on Donald and Harrison. He's let me talk about Harrison, but he doesn't elaborate and say much about Marianne, about Kenny, or the Potters. Listen, Harrison is not a bad guy. If you had abuse and murder of your sister and you didn't know how to process it, yeah, I'm sure anyone could make mistakes, but to say he turned out bad is irresponsible. He has more opinions about Donald and Harrison than he does of Marianne and Kenny. Do you really think that no one has come forward because it's within the family?
This family would turn if they had $20,000.
The Potter family would?
They would have turned on each other.
You think so?
I think so.
I want to point out that when Vernon and I had this conversation, there was a signed affidavit that clearly Vernon and the prosecuting attorney have from Marianne's own sister, and her name is Amanda Kay. She goes by Kay for short. I want to share what is included in the affidavit. We will be using AI to read her statement.
I, Amanda K. Potter, a.k.a. Kay, do wittingly and knowingly affirm the following information regarding my sister, Marianne and Kenny Mossberger. I have personal knowledge based on direct conversations with Marianne Brenham and Kenny Mossberger, or I personally observed it while in their presence. Number 1, I personally observed and heard Kenny Mossberger restrain Rodney Rittenhouse, telling him to not enter the burning house because, quote, Mackenzie is already gone, end quote. At this time, nobody, including the fire department, had been able to enter the house to determine whether Mackenzie had died at that time. Number 2, I personally believe that my sister, Marianne Brenham and Kenny Mossberger, set the fire intentionally in order to get money from the community, just as my mother had in a fire several years prior, for the purposes of using the, quote, sympathy money, end quote, on their pending vacation to Myrtle Beach, which was less than a week following Mackenzie's funeral. Number 3, Mary Ann told my family she was going to sue Fayette County the same day of Mackenzie's death for the purposes of buying motorcycle parts for Kenny Mossberger's motorcycle, which they took with them on the Myrtle Beach vacation. Kenny Mossberger, in my presence, told me that if I entered Mackenzie's bedroom after the fire to retrieve some personal effects of Mackenzie's, he would, quote, prosecute me and arrest me for trespassing, end quote. Kenny did not object to me entering the lower level of the house and made no such threats to me while I was in that area.
Okay, this is a crime scene, so why is Kenny directing who can go in there and who cannot? I mean, clearly there was no issue with William going up in Mackenzie's room.
Number 5, I personally saw 3 gasoline cans on the porch at 7 Walnut Street the day before the fire, but did not see them at the scene following the fire.
That kind of backs up what Teddy said, is that he saw the gas cans on the front porch.
Number 6, Kenny told me he tried to wake Mackenzie up during the fire and warn her by banging on the ceiling of the downstairs with a broom. I personally observed that this area of the downstairs had no ceiling on which to hit with the broom. I know that Kenny Mossberger wore hearing aids, and the night of the fire, he did not have them in since they were destroyed in the fire. I know that Kenny had to replace the hearing aids shortly after the fire. It would have been impossible for Kenny to have heard Mackenzie saying, quote, I can't see you through the smoke, end quote, as he has stated without wearing the hearing aids.
I don't know if he was wearing them or not. I know he was out talking with the neighbors, and people did not mention that they were screaming or yelling because he couldn't hear them. So I don't know.
Number 8. Marianne personally gave me the details of the splash patterns of the accelerant and the location of the path of the fire as it traveled through the house.
How would she know that if she didn't purposely set that?
The accelerant was poured in a circular pattern in the foyer area, over the couch, and then up the stairway upstairs. Marianne said the accelerant used in the arson fire was diesel fuel.
I just have to wonder why this hasn't been taken more seriously from Fayette County. You have a signed affidavit from a sister, and clearly it's very difficult for family members to come forward to speak. And here you have Kay's signed affidavit, and nothing has been done. I think people were afraid of Fayette County, and for Vernon to not even acknowledge that that's a possibility, given Stiegel's involvement, and people did say that they were retaliated against for having spoken up, that they stopped speaking. And Vernon didn't seem to think that that was even going to be an issue. To just bring all of this together, we have Kenny and Marianne leaving the scene, go to shower, change clothes, and then head to the hotel. Kenny takes a lie detector test sometime on the 27th, but nobody knows the time. Marianne does not take her lie detector test until May 11th. Once Kenny and Marianne arrive at the hotel, they ask for an additional room and then party in the pool, drinking for hours and playing chicken. They were not afraid for their lives, and nor were they trying to process the fact that they just escaped a fire and Mackenzie had died. Vernon doesn't recall Kenny's history of DUIs. I bet if Donald had DUIs, Vernon would remember that. And one of the biggest red flags for me here is that we have a signed affidavit from Mary Ann's own sister that Vernon doesn't even mention to me during our 3-hour interview of having this affidavit. This affidavit alone says a lot, because you have a family member who is sharing firsthand accounts of what happened on and around the murder, and yet Vernon never mentions it. The only thing he does is keeps bringing things back to Donald. So in the next episode, I dig more into the lie detector tests that were given. Who showed signs of deception? Who doesn't have an alibi? Oh, and I forgot one last thing. Vernon thinks Donald has more motivation than anyone else, even though he's been cleared. Next time on Dog with a Bone.
A good prosecutor or defense attorney for her because, well, why aren't you looking at him? He had the motivation to make sure she didn't have a house to take his daughter away from her. If you want to look circumstantial, and don't forget to look there, because he had more motivation than anybody else.
Dog with a Bone is hosted by Melissa Sandberg, investigated, produced, and written by Melissa Sandberg. Additional writing by Caitlin Sandberg. Edited by Jason Sandberg. Mixed and mastered by Morrow Mixing and Mastering. Theme music by Alex Yukich. Dog with a Bone is a Sat Squatch production.